The next thing that I played was a little game called WAGON. So WAGON, I looked at it. I just on the art style, I downloaded it. This is an extremely, hey, guess what? This is the next one in bleak, high contrast, minimalist games. This game is in 3D, and it's pretty much just like everything is black except for the outlines of objects and things that are illuminated by light sources, like and light. And it's like monocolor. It's black and one other color. This is a super high contrast game, looks very cool. And it actually includes a bunch of options for different color palettes, as in, one color palette. I believe it says 1-bit graphics or whatever, or one bit color palettes, something like that. Very cool looking game visually. And once I got into it, okay. First thing you see, you're in a first person view. Various people in kind of like period American, like US Manifest Destiny era settler, like we're going out west clothing kind of thing. Sitting around a campfire, darkness, it's night. Almost like heavy, just blacks everywhere, one color, extremely bleak looking scene. And text appears and it says, hey, we're out of food, time to draw straws. Person who draws the shortest straw gets eaten. And your character is the WAGON commander. You're the WAGON leader. You're the group leader. So you don't draw a straw. You're the one holding the straws up. And there's 3 other people besides you. Like 2 men and a woman. And one of them comes up to you, and they come up to you one by one. You hold up 3 straws. You can see which one is the shortest, right? Guy comes up to you, the first guy, and he reaches out and he's hovering his hand over one of the straws, and you get an optional prompt that says, press F to secretly shorten the straw. And I was hooked. In 20 seconds, I was like, this is some crazy shit. To put me in this situation, immediately establish the tone, where we are, what we're doing, the mood, with the visuals, with the 2 lines of dialogue, and then instantly giving me that choice, a really like extreme intense choice like that, which I don't think might be wrong, I don't think it has a real gameplay implication, but you don't know that. That's a crazy thing to put the player in that position immediately right off the bat. Was like, okay, this is some cool shit. So what is WAGON? WAGON is a spiritual successor to the Oregon Trail, but instead of being an educational game, it is more of a brutal survivalist experience. You're in your wagon that night. Well, it always feels like it's night because everything's always black, right? And you go over to a Ouija board, and you essentially talk to a spirit that appears. It's like this little girl kind of doll thing. And it basically it basically is sort of like a little spirit on your shoulder which just kind of observes you and the way that you manage your party and your actions. So you play the leader of this wagon party. You're trying to get to Oregon City. And you have a map. There's a map where you frequently come to forks in the road. Or you basically usually have like... You're going to go through about 5 stops. And you might have like a choice of like one or the other on the way. There's some spots that are like random events, you know? You lose a certain amount of resources and all that. If you look up this game, you're going to see, and if you see any gameplay, you're going to see cards. And that might make you groan and it might make you excited. And I'm going to either disappoint / embolden you in that this is not a deck building game. The game does involve moving cards around, but this is not a card game. The cards are just the visual interface that the game uses for you to do all of your stuff. So what does that mean? Essentially, you play the entire game looking down at the floor of the wagon and shuffling around these cards, which represent excuse me, all of the resources at your disposal, including your party members. So here's the way that it works. Essentially, every card represents some kind of either resource or thing or person. And combining the cards in different stacks, like stacking the cards in different combinations, leads to different actions being done or things being crafted or built, right? So for instance, you have 2 party members at your disposal. You, the wagon leader, never do anything, right? But you are the first one to eat every night. You have 2 party members at your disposal, at least in the demo that I played. Like Sam and Ada, I think was the other one's name. And essentially, like, okay, so you gotta go, so you have a certain amount of resources, food or whatever. How do you get more resources? You gotta go and you gotta explore, you gotta look for them. So you take Sam's card, and then his Sam's Club card, and then you stack it with the wagon card and the oxen card. And that begins the process of just exploring randomly wherever. You can then and then he will come back once it's done. There's a little progress bar above that stack. And then he'll come back when it's done, and you'll get like literally a little booster pack of whatever he found, whatever resources. Which will in that case be kind of randomly chosen. You can slightly influence what kind of resources you get with a slightly different combination of cards in the stack. So for instance, you take Sam and then combine him with the wagon and a fishing rod, and not the oxen, but the fishing rod, and he will go to a nearby lake, say. He'll go to a lake, and he'll come back, and he will be more likely to have brought back fish and stuff like that. You take, and you have a little guidebook next to you that you can look at any time. You can also, the game has a running active clock. And you can pause it at any time and make any decisions that you want to. The only thing that gets truly paused is the time and any ongoing processes. So you can always kind of stop to look what you're doing and see what your options are. This is a game of very intense resource management. So, like, for instance, you got to keep warm and you got to keep a steady supply of food coming. So, okay, how do you make food? There's a lot of ways to get food. One of them is, for instance, to grow it. So what you can do is you can take, what is it? You need... I'm trying to remember what the recipes are. It's like you take, it might be like really simple. I think it's as simple as like you take like just a person, like a party member, combine them with the sickle tool, and then they create soil. And then you can combine soil with a seed and you can grow food. Or you can like do some other stuff and you can combine like a different stack of cards and it will build a farm. And then the farm, you can drop you can stack it with the farm card. You can stack like a party member plus a seed on it, and they'll create like 4 food items. And it's like, okay, you can combine, wood and like some wood and some stone. You can create a house, which will you can then drag like another like wood card on top of the cabin card, and then that will create warmth for that night, which means that your characters won't suffer as much like temperature dropping, because they can become starving, they can become frozen, they can die of either of those things. It's just a game of very intense resource management, because you can kind of, if you don't know what you're doing, you can very easily screw yourself over by overcommitting certain resources or undercommitting to certain actions. Like, I completely I had a really good run going where I had to survive 7 nights before I could move on to the next stop, which I have a feeling is going to be like a lot of the game is like survive for X amount of nights at this one stop, and then it's going to get progressively harder. And it's like, okay, I was doing really well. I had a ton of food, so I didn't have to worry about that. I had a cabin, so and a decent supply of wood. And then I kind of ran into a problem, because so at the end of every day or every night, as soon as it hits midnight on the clock, you basically come in and you take stock. That includes everyone eating. It includes the maybe changes to the weather. And it also is when the card limit comes into play. So there's a limit to how many cards you can have on the floor at any one time. You can lessen that by, like, there's cards like barrels or chests which can store other cards inside of them, that kind of thing. But if you're over the limit, if you're over your cap, you're forced to sacrifice some of them. And you sacrifice them at a reduced rate. Like, I think you get some stuff back. Like, you'll get food, maybe food or something. But it'll be less cards than you put in. So I was like, oh man, I've got a lot of wood. Let me like dump some of it into the sacrifice, because I'm over the cap. Well, I ended up running out of wood, which meant that I couldn't keep my peoples warm. But really, the bad thing was that I couldn't keep my ox warm, because I couldn't build a pen, which is for keeping animals warm, and therefore I could not give it heat. So it died. It died of the cold, and then I was just kind of like shit out of luck, because I was like, fuck, how do I get wood now? Because I don't have an oxen that I can send one of my party members on to get to go just like get random resources. So what I ended up doing was I had to figure out that, like, oh, okay, I can go to the farm. I still have some seeds, thankfully, and I can bet on growing hemp, like just one of the random drops you can get from it. And if you combine 2 hemp, you can make a rope, and rope can be used as a substitute for oxen to go to, like, specifically like what I think like a crag or something like that, to get more resources. So I was like, okay, that's a way out. But you can make things very difficult on yourself. It's a very cool game, but definitely in the Oregon Trail spirit of being kind of brutal at times. but very cool. Really looking forward to this one. It's called WAGON.